I learned a lot about having great days too from my parents. I was very fortunate to have two parents who were both great days people. Very positive, very upbeat, and I know that that made a big difference in my growing up. One of the people that I learned so much from was my mother. And one of the best lessons that I learned from her, I didn't learn until she was 93 years old. That lesson that I learned from my mother is really one that I think holds lessons for all of us about how to adapt to change. For as long as I could remember, I had heard my mother say over and over and over again, when I get older, I do not want to leave my house. I don't want to come and live with you. I don't want to come to a retirement community. I don't want to go to assisted living or a nursing home. I want to die right here in my house. And for 50 years, my mother lived in the same little house. It was small, but it was very comfortable, and she was surrounded there by her memories and her treasures. Now, her treasures were nothing fancy. Some mementos from trips, gifts from friends, a little refrigerator art from her grandchildren. And for 20 of those 50 years, she lived there as a widow, and she did a really good job of taking care of herself and of her home. But life changed, and it does, you know. That home that had once been a place of comfort and ease became a place of difficulty. And on her own, my mother decided that it was time to move to assisted living. And the grace with which she handled that change was, I think, extremely impressive. Change is tough, isn't it? Once we get into patterns and we feel pretty comfortable in a comfort zone, it's really hard to break out. Let me share with you a little example. If you go into a grocery store or a department store and you buy something and you pay for it in cash, you get something back that looks like this. And what do we call this? Change. And we like it, don't we? I do. I don't seem to get very much of it back anymore, and so when I get it, I like it a lot. But let's face it, when change comes into our lives, our usual response is, why don't you just keep the change? We don't like it. It's hard. It's tough. I call this chapter in my book, Grace in the Face of Change. And let me share with you 5 things that my mother did that I think hold lessons for all of us. Number 1, my mother accepted reality. She accepted the fact that things had changed and things were going to have to be different. Number 2, she didn't whine or complain. Did she want to go? Not really. Would she have rather stayed in her home? Of course she would. But she didn't whine or complain. Number 3, she made the decision to move. She didn't dig in her heels and cause her family a lot of grief by forcing a decision. She made that decision. Number 4, she made wise choices. She thought through the options, and then she chose the one that she thought best suited her. And number 5, rather than trying to hold on to her treasures, she shared them with the people that she loved. We had a special day at her house where her children and her grandchildren and friends and spouses all came and selected those special items that held a memory or that would be appropriate in their own homes. And then she had the pleasure of seeing the people that she loved enjoying those items. But here was the biggest surprise. That thing which she had dreaded the most became her greatest blessing. Because you see, in the assisted living community, she had a new life. She had new activities. She had new friends. She didn't have to cook. She didn't have to worry about her yard anymore. And it turns out that that which was going to be so hard really became a tremendous blessing. So what are the lessons for us, no matter where we are in our lives? Because all of us, I don't care how old you are, where you live, what your circumstances are, all of us experience change, right? And so what are the lessons for us? Number one, accept the fact that things change. Things are not the same today as they were yesterday, and they will not be the same tomorrow as they are today. And the sooner that we can accept that, I guarantee you the more great days we're going to have. Number two, don't whine. It changes nothing, and it annoys everyone. So don't do that. Number three, when change comes, resist the temptation to resist. Realize that there are things out there that might bring you tremendous blessings that you never even know about. Number four, choose wisely. Life offers a lot of options, and so you just have to look at them and choose the one that is the best for you. And number five, let go. Because by letting go, we often gain far more than we lose.